She cheated, I vanished, then this happened, my ex-wife's shocking return. I quietly left after discovering my wife's affair, after 3.5 years of marriage. A year later my ghosted ex-wife tracked me down. After hearing of my wife's adultery I moved to the hills. Okay, buckle up because this is a story I never thought I'd be telling. Maybe putting it all out there will help someone else, now that the dust has settled, and I've finally moved on. It all started during my 3.5 years of marriage, or rather, the beginning of the end. It was February 2018 when the bomb dropped. I was working a contract job, which meant I was often on the road, but thankfully, I also had stretches where I could work from home. My wife, who is now my ex-wife, was a high-powered director at a technical sales company, raking in the dough. We initially clicked instantly upon meeting each other. I will admit, I always felt like landing a woman as attractive and articulate as her was a serious win. My rough around the edges personality somehow worked for her. After a few weeks, we were completely hooked on each other. Every time we met at each other's places, clothes were ripped off in a flash of a moment. Fast forward 18 months, and we were married, moving into a spacious apartment while saving for a down payment on our dream house. Then, about 3 years in, things started to subtly shift. I still loved her, but she started picking fights over the smallest things. When I'd bring up her late nights at the office and increasingly frequent work outings, all part of climbing that corporate ladder, or so she claimed, she'd accuse me of being unreasonable. It's necessary to pay the bills, was her constant refrain. And because I was often traveling for work, she said, I had no right to question her schedule. But in truth, my trips were usually just 3 or 4 days every 5 weeks. I tried to explain I could cut back on the travel, but those conversations always spiraled into pointless arguments. Looking back, I was completely blind. Aside from the dwindling sex life and those suspiciously late work hours, I never even considered she might be cheating. I just figured she was exhausted. But being constantly rejected when I tried to initiate intimacy was starting to wear down my ego. She had a work cell phone and could have been using it, but I never witnessed any of those cliché secret texting scenarios. She used our spare bedroom as a home office and spent a lot of time there. Around September 2017, a new routine started. Kathy would come home from work only to head right back out for a work engagement. This went from 1 night a week to 3 or more. I'm not a naturally jealous person, but of course, I knew other guys would notice her. I trusted her to deflect any unwanted advances. Despite working mostly with male CEOs, she always appeared primarily focused on her career. The first real red flag came a month before D-Day Discovery Day. She'd stopped at the supermarket on her way home. I went out to the car to help bring in the groceries when I noticed something glinting under the front passenger seat. It was a bra, her bra. She only wore bras from a certain store, so I knew it was hers. And looking back, I realized she always took her bra off first, under her clothes, when she was feeling particularly aroused. Why, I have no idea, but seeing that bra made my stomach churn. What was her bra doing under the seat? I said nothing. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. When I carried the bags into the kitchen, Kathy asked if I was okay, saying I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I just brushed it off, doing my best to mask the panic and disbelief that was boiling inside. That night, and the next day, I was a man obsessed. I started replaying everything, searching for any clue I might have missed. But besides the bra, I had nothing concrete. She worked in an office building downtown, and we lived in a pretty big city. I decided to try and push the affair idea to the back of my mind, and tried being more attentive. That Friday, I prepared a really nice meal, set the table with our best plates, silverware, and candles. I even bought flowers and a good bottle of wine. When she came home, dragging her feet after work, I proudly showed her the spread. She apologized and said she was sorry, but she had to go to a neighborhood bar to meet up with her coworkers. She said she wanted to shower first, but she could have a small bite with me before leaving. I must have gone completely silent because something inside me just snapped. I can't even describe the level of anger I felt. I grabbed my work cell phone and tossed it into the back seat of her car. I was planning to use my own phone to track her. I walked into the kitchen and threw the food and flowers in the garbage. After showering, she got dressed, looking stunning as always. I urged her to go have fun with her friends. She gave me a weird look and asked if I was angry. I just said I was sad that she never wanted to do anything with me anymore. She scoffed, sarcastically commenting on my short fuse, and told me to stop acting like a child. I muttered foolish under my breath. For once, I just wanted to spend the evening together. She just gave me a cold smile and stormed out. I grabbed my other phone and started tracking my work phone as she drove away. About 20 minutes later, she stopped at that bar she supposedly went to with her coworkers. I decided to drive over and find her car. Sure enough, it was in the parking lot of the bar. I parked across the street, waiting to see if I could catch her in the act. I felt like a total creeper, but I had to know for sure. About an hour later, I saw her leaving the bar with a man who looked like an executive from her company. He grabbed her, pulled her close, and kissed her right on the lips. I went completely numb, my stomach clenched into a knot. They got into a different car together, and I followed them. They ended up at a hotel. That was enough. I felt completely empty inside. I started pounding the steering wheel. That was it. Something broke inside me. I don't know if I had some kind of out-of-body experience, but when I came to, I just needed a drink. That's when my life took a turn I never could have predicted. I started driving out of town, replaying the kiss over and over. I was crying, partly from anger, partly from me don't even know. I ended up at a dive bar on the outskirts of town, about 30 miles away. I ordered a drink at the bar. The bartender, a woman, said I looked like I'd lost my best friend. You could say that, I replied. A man sat down next to me and started talking to me. I wasn't really in the mood to talk, but there was something about this guy that made me feel at ease. We started chatting, and eventually, my wife's infidelity came up. I told him I just wanted to get away from her, to forget she even existed. You're not alone, buddy, he said, giving me a knowing look. I went through that a few years ago. I think there's a reason why these things happen, positive or negative. At this point, it's all up to you. Something about his words snapped me out of my funk. I was still hurting, but I've always been able to see things rationally, and he was right. His name was Ray. I liked his down-to-earth vibe. So, when are you moving out? He asked. I hadn't even thought that far ahead. I was in pure fight-or-flight mode, and I knew I couldn't stand to be around that woman for another second. I've got an idea, Ray said. I've got a mobile home on my property. It needs some work, it's not much, but if you need a place to go, I'll give you a great deal on it, or even let you park it on another property of mine. You could look after it for me. It might be a good way to escape this mess. Just a thought. It took me a minute to process. The bartender chimed in. Help, honey, if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer or anything just to get my head on straight. It was like I had walked into the twilight zone. I said, I'll think about it, maybe I'll check it out. After a while, we parted ways, agreeing to meet at his place in a few days. For the first time, I felt like I had some kind of plan, a way out of what felt like a waking nightmare. I knew one thing for sure, I never wanted to see my wife again. I find cheating disgusting, and it's always been the one thing I thought I could never forgive. When I got home that night, Kathy came out when she heard the door. She asked where I had been. You know, I went out for a drink, she said. I asked her point blank, are you having an affair? She seemed surprised, but quickly recovered. No, why would you ask me that? I told her I'd heard she might be seeing someone at work. Who told you that? She demanded. Someone I know, I said, keeping the name a secret. She huffed, calling me ridiculous, accusing me of being drunk and crazy, and asked where I had been. Going to a bar to have some drinks with friends, she scoffed. She went back into the bedroom and went to bed. Now that I had confirmation she had been lying to me for months, I decided to sleep on the couch. I couldn't sleep at all, haunted by images of her in bed with that guy. I felt sorry for myself, disgusted, and hurt. Then, I thought about Ray's trailer. The thought of it actually cheered me up. The fight-or-flight response had kicked in big time, and I was definitely choosing flight. We didn't say much the next morning and acted like nothing had happened throughout the weekend. A few days later, I met up with Ray. His place was a real ranch, and the trailer was actually pretty decent, about 26 feet long and fully furnished. It reminded me of a spring break trip I took with my college buddies. Ray accepted the money I offered him for the trailer, to be honest. I almost wanted him to take it for free. He gave me directions to his other property. It had hiking and biking trails nearby. Ray had a small cabin on a hilltop overlooking the property, and said I could use the electricity and water. I tried to get Kathy to come clean in the following weeks, but all I got was gaslighting. I even warned her that there would be no turning back if I found out she was cheating. She dove even deeper into her affair and hit back at me. I was angry that I hadn't taken photos of them together. I decided I wanted out, so I started quietly moving my stuff into the trailer while she was at work. It made me feel like I was at least doing something proactive. Kathy did start acting more politely, but it was too late. I felt like I needed a break too. After work, I got ready to go out. She asked where I was going. I just said, meeting up with some friends. You wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk, and you don't know them, cutting her off before she could ask more questions. That's exactly what she used to say to me when I asked if I could go on office trips with her. All right, have a good time, she said with a slightly offended look. I definitely will, I replied. I made new friends working on the trailer and hanging out with Ray at the bar. I was feeling better. I decided to cut back on my drinking because I didn't want to develop any unhealthy habits. I knew better than to wallow in self-pity, even though it would have been easy. Around this time, Kathy told me she was going to be traveling for work next week. She said the executive team and a few department heads were going when I asked who was going. I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend, I blurted out, instantly regretting it because it triggered a huge fight. But Ray was right, it didn't really matter. I now regret not knowing more about the other man. She destroyed the marriage. Whether she admits it or not, brother, facts are facts. Damn it, I had the perfect opportunity to move out completely during Kathy's work trip. When she was gone, I collected all my valuables, including clothes, laptop, and equipment. I didn't take any shared possessions. I left a note on the kitchen table. I hope it was worth it. I set my wedding ring on top of the note. When I left, I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was free. The pain would take time to heal. I hadn't confronted her or forced her to confess. I hadn't screamed or shouted. She didn't deserve it. She had disregarded everything we owned. Our plans for the future, our hopes for a home and a family. And now, it was all gone. There was no turning back. She could deal with the consequences. I just wanted a new beginning. The mountain air was exactly what I needed when I arrived at my trailer. I resumed running the next week, and it felt amazing to be alive. Kathy texted things like "we just landed," "we're having a team dinner," and so on while she was away. "Where are you?" was the question in a few mails. "Why haven't you gotten back to me?" I didn't answer. My phone exploded with calls and texts when she got home. She kept trying to get in touch with me, but I ignored her. Her mother also tried to phone me after the first day, but I didn't pick up. She didn't try to engage my father because we aren't close and he is the only member of my family that I still have. Her messages grew more urgent after she was ignored for a week. Was one of the texts she. "We must speak. I'm not sure what you believe you know, but nothing is happening. There isn't an affair going on." She finally texted me after a week of not answering. "I'm sorry things got out of hand. It didn't matter that I was involved with someone at work. You were absent a lot while I was preoccupied with my work. I simply made an error. I intended to terminate." I had been waiting for this confession all along, yet somehow it only made me to test her more. Why was she unable to be truth? I didn't have any dreams about a future with this woman. Errors don't persist for. Her pleas for me to return and work on the marriage eventually grew. I refused to respond to her even after she stopped bothering me for a few weeks. I didn't want her to learn where I lived or to snoop around in my life. I didn't want my haven to be destroyed by this woman. She then began sending nasty texts like "you're a coward" one day. "You refuse to speak to me. You have no regard for us. Come home, please, so we can discuss. I am able to visit you. Call please, let's chat and make things right." Damn it. Although I don't recall all of they all appear to be excuses with minimal genuine regret. After a while I switched my mobile number. Update. June 2018. I received an email from Kathy informing me that she had hired a lawyer and was going to file for divorce. I just said, "That sounds good." This led to a barrage of emails requesting that I visited her and other things. She wrote that she would stop bothering me if I consented to an uncontested divorce after realizing this wouldn't work. After I consented, I was genuinely free a few months later. After I moved out of our apartment, I never had to see her again. She seemed to care more about that than I did. Even though neither of us had any closure, I would occasionally think of her for a few months. After a while though, I simply stopped thinking about her. Update to now. Now that I'm officially divorced, things are going great. In actuality, I got to know a wonderful girl. Just down the hill from my house, I was running on the trail. We clicked when I helped her replace a flat tire. Despite being a few years younger than me, she is fantastic and quite adorable. She refers to me as her mountain man, and adores my way of life. Although I'm not in a rush to commit, I also don't intend to give up on women entirely. I have no intention of moving out of the trailer anytime soon. I enjoy being outside and have simplified my life. It made everything easier for me, including the grief in my ex-wife. I am aware that everyone responds to these situations in a unique way. I was fortunate to be in my third year of marriage and not yet a parent. I believe I acted in my own best interest. You don't have to spend your entire life with someone who cheat. If you experience something similar, try not to think about it too much. Continue living your life. As you improve yourself, it will get better. I hope everyone has the finest possible life. And I just wanted to give you an update on my ex-wife's condition. I was worried that my ex-wife was attempting to find me. As I indicated in my earlier post, I left our previous residence, which was around 2 hours away. I ran into her last weekend at a coffee shop I often visit in the town close to my home. It didn't seem like a coincidence to me. Fortunately, I managed to get away before she noticed me. Third update. I went into town this past weekend to get groceries and made a stop at my normal coffee establishment. I finished and walked out of the coffee shop. I was on my way to my pickup when I heard someone shout. When I turned to look across the street, I saw Kathy. I was being waved at by my ex-wife. Finally, Armageddon had arrived. She hurried across the street toward me, and I stood there in disbelief, as though anticipating an embrace. She walked over and extended her hand. I stopped her in her tracks by instinctively holding out my arms with my palms. She appeared to be in severe pain. Then she added, "I've been searching for you, Paul. I've wanted to see you since I heard you moved here. Can we have a conversation?" Guys, I felt like an animal confined in a cage. Yes, I did. "All right, let's find a table or something and we can talk for a minute." I finally gave in. When she asked if we could come to my house, I firmly refused. At the end of the street, she trailed me down to a bench outside a small store. She began by remarking on how much I had changed and how much she liked my new appearance and level of fitness. She raved about how much my body had changed. Wearing a tank top, small white shorts, and her hair in a ponytail, just like I used to enjoy, she was really putting on the charm. I had my radar set high. She was clearly attempting to activate the sex appeal. I needed to control myself so I could see where this was headed. Last update. Most likely this will be my final update. When I first uploaded my story to read, the moderators kept taking it down. In summary, I ghosted my ex-wife for more than a year before she discovered me. She wanted to make amends and start over with us. You will be deeply disappointed if you thought I would be the typical beta blue pill fool and forgive her. She expressed her love and regret for the affair in a lengthy email she sent me last week. She offered to come out and stay with me for the weekend once more. My answer. My silence. I informed her that I had no plans to make amends with her. I'm totally happy living alone, taking advantage of my secluded position, and keeping things simple. At 32, I'm not in a rush to make changes. I have my own self-determination plan and have enjoyed the company of a few women and friends. I made it clear in my email response that I had no intention of reconciling and declined to provide her with my phone number. I no longer know or trust you because you made your bed. I hope the best for you, but not right now. She was annoyed by my evasiveness and responded in a telling way. She acknowledged that she had taken a job offer from a different state. Her true goal had been for me to accompany her, believing that my remote work would make the move simple. She wished we could start over somewhere new. She wanted to visit me in person to attempt to persuade me because she was running out of time before moving. Luckily for me, her time was up because I had a week of business travel. I'm grateful I will no longer have her in my life. She will soon recognize that her time with me is over, but I anticipate receiving a few more emails. She need to find someone else and she might even cheat on them. To anyone reading this, make the most of your life, let go of the past and give yourself the strength to go on. To all, good luck. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. So, I've laid it all out there. Looking back, I can't help but wonder if I handled things the right way. Did I cut her off too harshly? Was there any chance, even a sliver, that we could have salvaged something? Or was I right to protect my own peace and build a new life, far away from the woman who betrayed me? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this whole situation. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. Your opinions mean a lot to me.